The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. But what happens when something from beyond the stars arrives with its own kind of web? One spun not from mystical power, but from genius, determination, and the unyielding belief that with great power must come great responsibility? Peter Parker had been swinging between skyscrapers in Queens, pursuing a tech thief through the neon-lit canyons of New York City, when reality itself tore open. One moment he was firing a web line toward a fleeing hovercraft covered in Stark Industries logos. The next colors he couldn't name were bleeding through the air. His spider sense screamed a warning so intense it felt like his skull was splitting. Then came the pull, irresistible, overwhelming, and Peter was ripped from Earth like a leaf in a hurricane. He tumbled through a kaleidoscope of impossible geometry, hyperspace corridors meant for starships shredding around him, until he finally burst through into open sky above a planet he'd never seen. The twin suns of Christophsis blazed overhead as Spider-Man plummeted toward a crystal cityscape being torn apart by war. Below, armies clashed, massive walking tanks with insectoid legs, 8 TEs, though Peter didn't know that yet, advanced through streets alongside white armored soldiers. Across from them, endless waves of skeletal battle droids fired red bolts of coherent light. Explosions blossomed like deadly flowers. Buildings shattered into geometric shrapnel. And somewhere in that chaos, Peter heard screaming, his web shooters activated on instinct. A line of synthetic webbing shot downward, snagging a crystal spire, and Peter swung himself into a controlled descent. His enhanced reflexes mapped trajectories as red and blue energy bolts crisscrossed the air around him. Blasters, his mind cataloged. Those are energy weapons. Dodge! 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 A bolt seared past his shoulder. Another grazed his leg, burning through the outer layer of his suit. The pain was sharp but manageable. Peter twisted midair, firing another web line, and changed direction like a pinball made flesh. The battle sounds grew louder, mechanical voices barking, "Roger, Roger," human shouts of, "Watch your left," and the distinctive snap hiss of something Peter's spider sense marked as uniquely dangerous. He landed hard on a crystalline rooftop, immediately dropping into a crouch. His senses were going haywire, not just danger warnings, but something else. A humming he could almost hear, almost feel, like the entire planet was breathing with energy. It made his skin prickle. "Okay, Peter," he muttered to himself, the familiar self-talk grounding him even as explosions rocked the building beneath his feet. Not in New York, definitely not Earth, possibly not even the same universe. But people are dying down there, so we can have the existential crisis later. A massive explosion erupted 3 blocks away. Through the smoke, Peter saw a cluster of those white armored soldiers, clone troopers, each identical in their armor, pinned down by an advancing line of battle droids. They were going to be overrun in seconds. Spider-Man didn't hesitate. He launched himself off the rooftop, web lines firing in rapid succession, and swung down into hell. The first battle droid never saw him coming. Peter's fist, backed by superhuman strength, punched clean through its chassis. Sparks flew. The droid collapsed in a heap of servos and shattered metal. "Hi, hello. Sorry to drop in unannounced," Peter quipped, grabbing 2 more droids and smashing them together like cymbals. "I'm new to the neighborhood, but I'm pretty sure the robot army is the bad guys, right?" The clone troopers stared. One of them, his helmet marked with blue striping, slowly raised his blaster, then lowered it. "What? What are you?" "Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man," Peter replied, webbing up 3 droids in quick succession, then yanking them off their feet. "Though I guess that doesn't mean much here." Where is here exactly? A thermal detonator bounced into their position. Peter's spider sense shrieked. He didn't think. He just moved. One hand grabbed the blue-striped trooper, the other fired a web line, and he yanked them both skyward just as the detonator exploded. The shock wave buffeted them, but they survived. Peter deposited the trooper on a second-story balcony, then immediately swung back down. More droids were advancing. More clones were dying, and Peter's brain was already working the problem. Conserve web fluid, prioritize targets, don't kill if possible, even if they're droids, and figure out what the hell is happening. A blue blade of pure energy suddenly carved through a dozen droids like they were made of paper. Peter's spider sense pinged a new kind of danger. Not hostile, but powerful, intense, focused. A young man, maybe early 20s, stood in the center of the carnage holding what Peter's mind struggled to classify. A laser sword? The blade hummed with contained power, casting blue light across the warrior's scarred face and determined eyes. Behind him, a younger girl, orange skin, white and blue headtails, wielded a green blade with similar deadly grace. The young man's eyes locked onto Spider-Man. Even from 30 feet away, Peter felt the weight of that gaze. It was assessing, calculating, curious. "Rex!" the young man shouted to the blue-striped trooper Peter had saved. "Fall back to the transport. We've got incoming." He paused, blades still ignited, studying Spider-Man. "Something." Peter waved awkwardly, upside down, clinging to a crystal wall. "Hi, Spider-Man. Earth. I think I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque." The girl with the green lightsaber, Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, though Peter didn't know that yet, tilted her head. "Master, I don't sense him in the Force." "Neither do I," the young man replied. Anakin Skywalker, hero of the Republic, deactivated his lightsaber, but kept his hand near the hilt. But he just saved an entire squad from being overrun. "Enemy of my enemy?" "Usually works for me," Peter said, dropping to street level. Around them, the battle continued to rage, but this small pocket had gone eerily quiet. The droids seemed to be regrouping. "Look, I don't know where I am, what's happening, or why everyone's got laser swords and robot armies, but I'm really good at improvising. So if you need help stopping the killer robots, I'm in." Anakin glanced at Ahsoka. She shrugged. "He did save Rex." "All right, Spider-Man from Earth," Anakin said, igniting his blade once more as the droid army renewed its assault. "Let's see what you can do. Try to keep up." Peter grinned beneath his mask. "Keep up? Buddy, I was swinging through Manhattan before I could legally drive." He launched himself forward, webs flying, and the Jedi followed. Together, Jedi Knights guided by the Force and a spider-powered teenager guided by responsibility, they plunged back into the Battle of Christophsis. The galaxy would never be quite the same. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The battle lasted another 3 hours. By the time the Separatist forces finally retreated, Spider-Man had saved 17 clone troopers, disabled 43 battle droids, prevented 2 buildings from collapsing on civilian refugees, and completely exhausted his web fluid reserves. Peter sat on a chunk of rubble, mask rolled up to his nose, gulping down water that one of the clones, Rex, the captain with blue markings, had offered him. The liquid tasted recycled and metallic, but after swinging through a war zone in Twin Sun heat, he wasn't complaining. Around him, clone troopers worked with mechanical efficiency, securing the perimeter, treating wounded, and stacking destroyed droids for salvage. They all looked identical beneath their helmets, same face, same voice, same movements. It was deeply unsettling in a way Peter couldn't quite articulate, like looking at a mass-produced army of human beings, because that's exactly what they were. "So," Anakin Skywalker said, approaching with Ahsoka at his side. Both had deactivated their lightsabers, those incredible, impossible weapons Peter desperately wanted to understand. "Earth. Never heard of it. Not in any Republic system, not in the Outer Rim, not even in wild space. Different dimension, maybe?" Peter offered, too tired to be anything but honest. "One minute I'm in New York chasing a tech thief, next minute reality's tearing open and I'm falling through, I don't even know what to call it, colors that don't exist? And then boom, war zone on a crystal planet with laser swords and robot armies." Ahsoka's blue eyes studied him with unnerving intensity. She was young, maybe 14, Peter guessed, but carried herself with the confidence of a trained warrior. The headtails, Montrals, and Leku, he'd learned later, twitched slightly as she spoke. "You're not Force-sensitive. I can't feel you in the Force at all. But the way you fight, the way you knew where every shot would be before it fired?" "Spider sense," Peter explained, pulling his mask back down. Secret identity wasn't really applicable when you were stranded in another universe. Precognitive danger warning, plus enhanced strength, agility, reflexes, wall crawling, got bit by a radioactive spider. Long story, very weird story. Radioactive spider, Anakin repeated flatly. Gave you superpowers. I know how it sounds. I've seen Stranger. Anakin crossed his arms, mechanical right hand whirring softly. Peter's enhanced hearing caught it immediately. The Republic's going to want to know about you. The Jedi Council definitely will. You just appeared in the middle of a war zone with abilities that rival some Force users, and nobody knows where you came from. Peter's spider sense tingled faintly. Not danger, but caution. And that's a problem because we're at war, Ahsoka said gently. The Separatists would love to capture someone like you, study your abilities, maybe replicate them. And the Republic, she glanced at Anakin. They'll want to know if you're a threat. I'm not. We know, Anakin interrupted. You proved that today. But bureaucrats and council members don't always see what's in front of them. He sighed, running his human hand through sweat-dampened hair. Look, I'm taking you to Coruscant, to the Jedi Temple. Master Yoda and the council need to meet you, figure out what to do with you. And if I say no, Anakin's expression hardened slightly, then you're an unknown combatant in Republic space during wartime. That doesn't end well for anyone. Peter felt his spider sense spike. Anakin wasn't threatening him exactly, but the implication was clear. He was stuck. No way home, no resources, no allies except these two laser sword-wielding warriors who seemed honorable but operated under rules Peter didn't understand. Okay, Peter said, standing. His legs ached. His suit was scorched in 3 places. His web shooters were bone dry. I'll meet your council, but I need to be clear about something. I don't kill. I saw a lot of people die today. A lot of those droids get cut down, and I get that it's war, but that's not how I operate. Where I come from, with great power comes great responsibility. That means protecting everyone, even your enemies. Ahsoka's expression softened. The Jedi believe in preserving life. We don't seek violence. And yet here we are, Peter gestured at the battlefield, with an army of clone soldiers fighting a war that, no offense, I don't understand at all. Who are the Separatists? Why are they fighting? What's this all about? Long story, Anakin said. Very complicated story. Come on, we've got a cruiser in orbit. We'll brief you on the way to Coruscant. The Republic attack cruiser was called the Resolute. Peter's first view of it came as a LAT gunship, low-altitude assault transport, Rex explained, lifted off from Christophsis's crystal surface and climbed toward orbit. Through the open doors, Peter watched the planet fall away, replaced by the infinite black of space. And then he saw the ship. It was massive, over 1 kilometer long. Peter estimated, shaped like a dagger with a wedge-shaped hull painted in Republic red and white. Turbo laser batteries bristled along its surface. Hangar bays yawned open like hungry mouths. Smaller ships, starfighters that looked like insects made of metal, swarmed around it in patrol patterns. Holy, Peter breathed. That's a spaceship. An actual, real, flying through space spaceship. You don't have hyperspace travel on Earth? Ahsoka asked, surprised. We barely have LEO satellites that work consistently, Peter admitted. This is incredible. The gunship slid into the hangar bay, and Peter got his first real look at the Republic military machine. Clone troopers, hundreds of them, worked in perfect synchronization. Some wore standard white armor, others had colored markings denoting rank or specialty. Orange for engineers, green for sergeants, blue for captains like Rex. But they all had the same face. As Peter descended the gunship's ramp, he caught glimpses beneath helmets being removed. Same dark eyes, same brown skin, same strong jawline and warrior's build. They were clones, actual genetic duplicates, and the ethical implications made Peter's head spin. General Skywalker, Rex said, saluting crisply, the prisoner from the Citadel mission is secure, and Admiral Yularen wants a word about the guest. Not a prisoner, Anakin clarified. An ally, for now. Rex's eyes, those identical eyes Peter had seen on dozens of faces, studied Spider-Man with professional assessment. Sir, with respect, we don't know anything about him. He could be a separatist weapon. If I were a separatist weapon, Peter pointed out, I probably wouldn't have saved your life. Twice. Rex's expression didn't change. Droids don't care about self-preservation either. They follow programming. I'm not a droid. I'm a 17-year-old from Queens who just wants to go home. That made Rex pause. 17? Yeah. Senior year of high school, actually. Had a chemistry test scheduled for tomorrow, which I'm definitely going to miss now. Peter laughed, slightly hysterical. My Aunt May is going to kill me. If I ever see her again. Ahsoka stepped closer, her voice gentle. You're just a kid. So are you, Peter shot back, then immediately regretted the harshness. Sorry, it's been a really, really weird day. Come on, Anakin said, his tone softer now. Understanding. Let's get you to quarters. We'll jump to hyperspace in an hour. Coruscant is 3 days away. That gives us time to figure things out. You need rest, food, and probably new web fluid, right? Peter nodded gratefully. If you've got a chemistry lab and some basic organic compounds, I can synthesize more. It's a polymer solution. I developed the formula myself. Anakin raised an eyebrow. You invented your own chemical compound at 17? 14, actually. The spider bite was when I was 15. For the first time, Anakin smiled. Genuinely smiled. You're going to get along great with the Council. They love overachieving teenagers with mysterious powers. He glanced at Ahsoka, who rolled her eyes. Master, I'm kidding, Snips, mostly. As they walked through the Resolute's corridors, all sterile white and military gray, Peter's mind raced. He was on a spaceship, in another universe. About to travel faster than light to meet a council of space wizards who could read minds and move things with their thoughts. His spider sense hummed with that same strange energy he'd felt on Christophilus. Not danger, just presence, like the entire ship was saturated with something living. Hey, Anakin? Peter asked. That thing Ahsoka mentioned, the Force. What is it exactly? Anakin stopped walking. Ahsoka stopped too. Both Jedi exchanged a look that Peter couldn't quite read. The Force, Anakin said slowly, is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together. Some people, Jedi, can sense it, touch it, use it. And you think I might be one of those people? No, Ahsoka said definitively. You're not Force sensitive, but your abilities, they're similar. Different, but similar. And that's going to make people very curious. Peter's spider sense spiked. Curious good or curious bad? Anakin's expression turned grim. Depends on who's doing the asking. Hyperspace was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Peter stood in the Resolute's observation deck, watching the universe streak past in bands of blue and white light. Stars became lines. Space itself seemed to twist and bend around the ship as it traveled faster than light through dimensions his Earth-based physics education couldn't begin to explain. First time? A voice asked behind him. Peter turned to find Rex approaching, helmet tucked under one arm. Without the armor obscuring his face, the clone captain looked almost human, which was a weird thought because he was human. Just one created in a laboratory from another man's genetic template. Yeah, Peter admitted. We don't have this where I'm from. Space travel is still rockets and months-long journeys. This is... He gestured at the hyperspace tunnel. Impossible. Hyperdrive technology has been around for thousands of years, Rex said, moving to stand beside him. Can't imagine being trapped in a single system. Must feel small. It does now, Peter said quietly. 3 days ago, I thought Queens was the center of the universe. Now I find out there's an entire galaxy full of planets and people and wars I never knew existed. Rex was silent for a moment, studying Peter with those sharp, analytical eyes. You saved my life on Christophsis. Didn't know me, didn't know which side was which, but you jumped in anyway. That's what heroes do, Peter said simply. At least that's what I was taught. You see someone in trouble, you help. Doesn't matter who they are. Heroes. Rex tested the word like it was foreign. We're soldiers. We follow orders, complete missions, serve the Republic. That's what we were made for. Peter turned to face him fully. Made for? Rex, you're a person. You have thoughts, feelings, choices. I'm a clone. Rex's voice was level, but Peter heard something underneath. Pain, resignation. Grown in a tube on Camino, trained from birth to fight, I've got the memories of thousands of battles programmed into my mind. I'm 10 years old, Spider-Man. Physically, 20. But I've never had a childhood. Never had a choice about what I'd become. The words hit Peter like a punch. 10 years old. These soldiers, these men who fought and bled and died, were children, created as weapons, programmed as warriors. That's not right, Peter said, anger creeping into his voice. Nobody should be born into slavery. We're not slaves, Rex corrected sharply. We're soldiers. There's a difference. Is there? Peter challenged. Can you leave? Can you choose not to fight? What happens if you say no to an order? Rex's jaw tightened. Court-martial. Execution, probably. But I wouldn't say no. This is what I am. What we all are. Peter wanted to argue more, wanted to explain how wrong this all was, but his spider sense suddenly flared. Not danger. Presence. He turned to see Ahsoka entering the observation deck, her montrals casting strange shadows in the hyperspace glow. Master Anakin wants you in the briefing room, she said to Peter, then nodded respectfully to Rex. Captain. Rex saluted and left without another word, his expression carefully neutral. Ahsoka watched him go, then sighed. You asked him about the clones, didn't you? Is it that obvious? Rex gets that look when people question what he is. Ahsoka moved to the viewport, arms crossed. For what it's worth, I agree with you. The clone army is complicated. The Jedi didn't create them, but we lead them. We send them into battle, and thousands die every day. How do you live with that? By believing we're fighting for something bigger, Ahsoka said quietly. The Republic is flawed, but it's democracy, freedom. The Separatists want to tear that down, replace it with corporate tyranny. If we don't fight, billions suffer. Peter heard the doubt beneath her words. She was trying to convince herself as much as him. You're what, 14? Peter asked. 14 standard years, yes. And they made you a soldier too. Ahsoka's eyes flashed. I'm a Jedi, it's different. Is it? Peter echoed his earlier question to Rex. Did you choose this, or were you raised in a temple and trained from childhood to fight? The Force chose me, Ahsoka said, but her voice wavered. I was brought to the temple as an infant, given to the Jedi Order to train. Given by who? My parents. She looked away. It's an honor. Jedi serve the galaxy. Peter felt his heart break a little. This girl, this kid, had been taken from her family and raised as a warrior monk, taught that service meant sacrifice, and now she was fighting a war that would scar her forever, just like Rex, just like all the clones. I'm sorry, Peter said. I'm not trying to attack you. It's just, where I come from, kids are supposed to go to school, play, have normal lives, not fight wars. Where you come from sounds nice, Ahsoka said wistfully. Then she straightened, warrior mask sliding back into place. But that's not the galaxy we have. Come on, Master Anakin's waiting. The briefing room was small and utilitarian. A holographic projector dominated the center, currently displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of systems glowed in blue, Republic, or red, Separatist, with contested zones flickering between colors. Anakin stood studying the map, arms crossed, his mechanical hand occasionally twitching, a nervous tick Peter had noticed. Beside him stood an older man in a crisp naval uniform, Admiral Wolf Yularen, stern-faced and skeptical. Spider-Man, Anakin said without looking up, we need to talk about what happens when we reach Coruscant. Peter entered cautiously, spider sense humming with low-level alertness. I meet your council, right? The Jedi Council, yes. Anakin finally turned, his blue eyes intense. Master Yoda, Master Windu, and the other council members will want to interview you, understand your abilities, determine if you're a threat. I'm not... I know. Anakin held up a hand. But you have to understand, we're at war. A war that's been manipulated by a Sith Lord we haven't been able to identify. The dark side of the Force clouds everything. Trust is a luxury we can't always afford. Sith Lord? Peter asked. I'm guessing that's bad. Very bad, Ahsoka confirmed. The Sith use the dark side of the Force. Anger, fear, hatred. They're the ancient enemies of the Jedi. We thought they were extinct for 1,000 years, but 10 years ago, they returned. Admiral Yularen spoke for the first time, his voice clipped and professional. What General Skywalker is trying to say is that your arrival is suspicious. Unprecedented abilities, unknown origins, appearing in the middle of a strategic battle. It raises questions. I didn't ask to be here, Peter said, frustration bleeding through. I want to go home. I have a life, people who care about me, responsibilities, and we'll help you, Anakin interjected, if we can. But first, you need to convince the Council that you're not a separatist weapon or some dark side trick. Peter laughed bitterly. How do I prove I'm not something I don't even understand? By being honest, Ahsoka said. The Jedi can sense deception. If you're truthful, they'll know. Can they sense me at all? Peter asked. You said I'm not Force sensitive, that you can't feel me in the Force. Doesn't that make me invisible to your lie detection? Anakin and Ahsoka exchanged another one of those loaded glances. Yes, Anakin admitted, which makes you either very trustworthy or very dangerous. The Council will decide which. Peter's spider sense spiked harder. And if they decide wrong, then you'll be detained, Admiral Yularen said bluntly, under Republic military authority for the duration of the war. Imprisoned, you mean? Protected, Anakin corrected, but his tone suggested he didn't quite believe it either. Look, Spider-Man, Peter, I don't think you're a threat. You fought alongside us, saved Republic soldiers, asked for nothing in return. That counts for something. But I'm not the one making this decision. Peter felt trapped. No way home. No allies except 2 Jedi who were sympathetic, but ultimately followed orders. And now he was flying toward a judgment that could end with him locked in a cell for a war he didn't understand. I need to make more web fluid, Peter said abruptly. You promised me access to a lab. Anakin nodded. We've got a chemistry station in the medical bay. It's small, but the CMO said you can use it. Rex will escort you. I don't need an escort. Standard security protocol, Admiral Yularen said. You're an unknown combatant on a Republic warship. You'll be accompanied at all times. Peter bit back an angry retort. These people had saved him, fed him, given him shelter. But they also didn't trust him, couldn't trust him, and that hurt more than he expected. Fine, Peter said. Anything else? Anakin's expression softened. Yeah, one more thing. He manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on a single planet, a massive city world covered entirely in skyscrapers and urban sprawl. This is Coruscant, capital of the Galactic Republic. 1 trillion people live there. It's the center of civilization in the known galaxy. Peter stared at the hologram. 1 trillion people. An entire planet that was one endless city. It's also where Count Dooku will hear about you, Ahsoka added quietly. And when he does, the Separatists will do everything they can to capture you. Why? Peter asked. I'm just one person. You're an unknown variable in a war that's been mathematically predicted down to the last casualty, Anakin said grimly. The Sith deal in absolutes, in control, in manipulation. You're something they didn't plan for. That makes you either an asset to acquire or a threat to eliminate. Peter felt his spider sense roaring now, warning him of dangers days away. Enemies he hadn't met. Threats he couldn't fight. Great, he muttered. Just great. I survive a dimensional rift, land in a war zone, and now I've got evil space wizards who want to kidnap me. Welcome to the Clone Wars, Ahsoka said with a slight smile. It's just as fun as it sounds. Despite everything, Peter laughed. You know what? I like you, Ahsoka. You've got a good sense of humor for a child soldier. Her smile faded. Don't let Master Windu hear you say that. He already thinks I'm too irreverent. Then I'm definitely going to like this Master Windu, Peter said. Anyone uptight enough to worry about irreverence sounds like my kind of challenge. Anakin grinned. Oh, this is going to be entertaining. The chemistry station in the Resolute's medical bay was primitive by Stark Industries standards, but Peter made it work. For 6 hours straight, he synthesized his web fluid formula using Republic standard compounds, adjusting ratios to account for different molecular structures and the weird omnipresent energy field, the force, that seemed to permeate everything. Rex stood guard by the door, silent and watchful. Occasionally, clone medics would pass through, casting curious glances at the masked teenager hunched over laboratory equipment, but none approached. The captain had made it clear Spider-Man was under observation, not interrogation. Okay, Peter muttered, pipetting a precise measure of polymer base into a containment cartridge. Cross-linking agent stabilized, viscosity at 70,000 centipoise, tensile strength should be around. Yeah, that'll hold. He loaded the cartridge into his left web shooter and tested the mechanism. A thin strand of webbing shot across the medbay, striking a wall and adhering perfectly. Peter tugged experimentally, solid. Not quite as strong as his Earth formula, but close enough. That's impressive, Rex said from the doorway. You invented that? When I was 14, Peter confirmed, loading the second web shooter. Got tired of swinging on actual rope. Too much friction, not enough tensile strength. Plus, dissolves naturally after a few hours. No evidence left behind. Evidence of what? Peter hesitated. Crime fighting. I'm a vigilante back home. Unlicensed, unsanctioned. The cops tolerate me because I help, but I'm technically breaking the law every time I put on the mask. Rex processed this. You fight without authority? Without orders? I fight because it's right, Peter said. Because someone has to. With great power comes great responsibility. My Uncle Ben taught me that before he died. I couldn't save him, but I can save others. Your uncle was killed in battle? Killed by a criminal I could have stopped, Peter said quietly. I had my powers, had the ability to help, but I was selfish, arrogant, let a thief escape because it wasn't my problem. That thief killed Ben 2 weeks later. The weight of that confession hung in the sterile air. So you became Spider-Man to atone, Rex said. It wasn't a question. I became Spider-Man to make sure no one else loses someone because I didn't act. Peter sealed the last cartridge, which is why this war bothers me so much. Millions of people dying and everyone just accepts it, like it's inevitable. War is inevitable when negotiation fails, Rex replied. The separatists refused every peace offer. They bombed civilian centers, enslaved entire populations, unleashed bioweapons. What would you have the Republic do? I don't know, Peter admitted. But using an army of clones who were born to die, that can't be the only answer. It's the answer we have. Before Peter could respond, the medbay doors hissed open. Ahsoka entered, slightly out of breath. Peter, we're coming out of hyperspace in 10 minutes. Master Anakin wants you on the bridge. Peter stood, web shooters loaded and functional, mask secure. Time to meet the council? Not yet. First you see Coruscant. The bridge of the Resolute was organized chaos. Officers shouted coordinates. Holographic displays tracked hundreds of ships in nearby space, and Admiral Yularen orchestrated everything with military precision. Anakin stood at the viewports, hands clasped behind his back, watching hyperspace collapse into normal reality. Peter joined him, and his breath caught. Coruscant filled the viewport, a planet of endless cities, towers reaching toward space, billions of lights creating a glowing sphere against the darkness. Starships of every size moved in carefully controlled patterns around it. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons, and in the distance more Republic cruisers hung in formation. 5,000 levels deep, Anakin said softly. Cityscape built over ancient ground. The Jedi Temple sits on one of the few remaining mountains, one of the oldest structures on the planet. It's beautiful, Peter whispered, and terrifying. How do you govern 1 trillion people? Poorly, Anakin admitted. The Senate is corrupt. Bureaucrats care more about credits than citizens. And the Chancellor, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, he's expanded his emergency powers so much that democracy is barely functioning. But you serve him? I serve the Republic, Anakin corrected. What it should be. what it could be, not what it's become. Peter heard the frustration, the disillusionment. This war was breaking Anakin Skywalker piece by piece. The question was whether he'd shatter or rebuild. The Resolute descended through Coruscant's atmosphere, past traffic lanes congested with speeders and transports, through layers of city that never ended. Eventually they approached a massive structure, 5 towers arranged like a star, crowned with wisdom and age, the Jedi Temple. "That's where the magic happens," Peter asked. "That's where we train Force sensitives to serve the galaxy," Ahsoka said, joining them. "It's been the home of the Jedi Order for over 4,000 years." The cruiser docked at a military landing platform adjacent to the temple. As the docking clamps engaged, Peter's spider sense suddenly roared to life. Not danger, but overwhelming presence, like standing next to a bonfire made of thought and intention. "They're here," Ahsoka said quietly. "The Council. They're reaching out through the Force, trying to sense you." "Can they?" "No. You're still a void to us." That's what makes them nervous. A shuttle was waiting, sleek and diplomatic, marked with Republic insignia. Anakin gestured Peter forward. "Remember, be honest, be respectful, and don't make any sudden movements. Some of the council members are twitchy around unknowns." "Twitchy meaning laser swords?" "Lightsabers," Ahsoka corrected. "And yes." The shuttle flight was brief, across Coruscant's Senate district, over the temple's lower levels, finally landing on a pad near the council spire. As Peter descended the ramp, he got his first ground-level view of the Jedi Temple. It was massive. Ancient stone mixed with modern technology, creating a structure that felt both timeless and immediate. Jedi walked the grounds, humans, aliens Peter had no names for, all wearing similar robes and earth tones. Some were clearly children, younglings being trained in groups. Others were warriors, scarred and serious, and all of them stopped to stare at Spider-Man. "They can't sense you," Anakin explained as they walked. "To Force users, you're a blind spot, a hole in the Force. It's disconcerting." "Great, so I'm the creepy void kid." "Essentially." They entered the temple proper, halls lined with statues of ancient Jedi, meditation chambers humming with power, training rooms where younglings practiced with lightsabers under watchful eyes. Peter's spider sense thrummed constantly here, reacting to the concentrated Force energy. Finally, they reached a turbo lift that ascended into the tallest spire, the Council Tower. As the lift climbed, Ahsoka placed a hand on Peter's shoulder. "Whatever happens up there, know that Anakin and I believe you. We'll speak on your behalf." "Thanks," Peter said, genuinely touched. "That means a lot." The doors opened. The council chamber was circular, with tall windows offering a panoramic view of Coruscant's endless cityscape. 12 chairs arranged in a circle, most occupied by Jedi Masters representing dozens of species. Peter recognized none of them, but his spider sense immediately identified the most dangerous. A small, green alien, maybe 2 feet tall, ancient beyond measure, sat in one chair, eyes closed in meditation. His presence in Peter's spider sense felt like a mountain, immovable, patient, eternal. That had to be Yoda. Beside him, a dark-skinned human with a stern expression and a purple lightsaber at his belt watched Peter with unconcealed suspicion. His presence felt like a blade, sharp, precise, unforgiving. Master Windu. Had to be. "Approach, young Spider-Man," Yoda said, eyes still closed. "Much to discuss, we have." Peter stepped forward, acutely aware of every Jedi's gaze upon him. Anakin and Ahsoka took positions behind him, present but not interfering. Master Windu spoke first. "You claim to be from another dimension, a place called Earth. Yet no record of such a world exists in any archive. No hyperspace route leads to it, and the Force itself does not register your presence." "I didn't claim anything," Peter said carefully. "I'm just telling you what happened. One minute I'm home, next minute I'm falling through hyperspace above Christophsis." "Hyperspace rifts don't work that way," another council member, a Keldor with a breathing mask, interjected. "Dimensional travel requires massive energy expenditure and precise calculations. You're claiming an accident did what the most advanced civilizations can't achieve deliberately." "I don't know what to tell you," Peter said, frustration creeping in. I'm a high school student from Queens who got bit by a radioactive spider. I swing around New York, stopping muggers and bank robbers. I'm not a scientist, not a dimensional traveler, and definitely not a threat to your republic. Young you are, Yoda said, finally opening his eyes. Ancient, knowing eyes that seemed to pierce Peter's soul despite the Force not registering him. But powerful. Saved many lives on Christophsis, you did. Fought without hesitation. Why? Because they needed help, Peter answered simply. I don't need a reason beyond that. Yoda hummed thoughtfully. No connection to the Force, yet sense danger you can. Precognition, but different. Explain. You will. Peter took a breath. My spider sense. It warns me of threats before they happen. Split-second precognition, basically. Saved my life thousands of times. But it's not psychic or force-based. It's biological, a sixth sense like echolocation or magnetoreception. And your strength? Master Windu asked. General Skywalker's report says you punch through battle droid armor with your bare hands. Proportional spider strength. I can lift about 10 tons in optimal conditions. Maybe 12. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. That was significantly stronger than most Force-enhanced physical augmentation. Your webs, a Togruta master said. Shock T, Peter would learn later. They're technological, not biological? I invented them. Synthetic polymer with adjustable viscosity and tensile strength. Dissolves naturally after a few hours. At 14 years old, Master Windu said flatly, you expect us to believe a child invented advanced chemical compounds that outperform Republic adhesives? Peter's temper flared. I expect you to believe what I'm telling you because it's the truth. I don't know how your Force works, but where I come from, some people are just smart, and I worked hard to develop my web formula because I needed it to be Spider-Man, to help people, to live up to the responsibility my powers gave me. Silence filled the chamber. Then Yoda spoke, his voice gentle. Angry, you are not. Frustrated, yes. Scared, perhaps. But malice, I sense none. Darkness, I sense none. Only, he tilted his head, conviction, responsibility, a weight you carry, young one. Peter felt his throat tighten. I lost my Uncle Ben because I didn't act. I won't make that mistake again. A hard lesson, Yoda said quietly. One many Jedi learn too late, or never learn at all. Master Windu frowned. Master Yoda, are you suggesting we trust him? Suggesting I am that see him we should. Not as threat, not as weapon, but as what he is, a child, far from home, trying to do right. Yoda's ears lowered. Perhaps remind us he can of what Jedi should be. Another council member, Ki-Adi-Mundi, tall with an elongated head, spoke up. Even if we believe his story, the question remains. What do we do with him? He can't return home. He has no place in Republic society, and the Separatists will eventually learn of his existence. They already have, Anakin interjected. Count Dooku's spies on Christophsis would have reported the battle. If the Sith know about Spider-Man, they'll want him. Then protect him we must, Yoda declared. Train him, perhaps. Not as Jedi, the Force does not flow through him, but as ally, as friend. And if he refuses? Master Windu challenged. All eyes turned to Peter. I don't want to be a soldier in your war, Peter said honestly, but I won't sit by while people die if I can help. So yeah, I'll stay. I'll fight. But on my terms, I don't kill, I don't follow orders blindly, and if I think something's wrong, I'll say so. Master Windu's expression darkened. The Jedi Order doesn't negotiate terms with... Let him speak, Master Windu, Shaak Ti interrupted gently. His conditions seem reasonable. Reasonable for a civilian, Windu countered, not for a combatant in wartime. Then don't make me a combatant, Peter said. Let me help how I can, when I can. I'm not asking to join your order or your military. I'm asking to do what I do best, protect people. Yoda smiled, a small, knowing expression. A freelancer he wishes to be. Like a Jedi consular, but without the training. Dangerous this could be. More dangerous to imprison him, Anakin argued. You lock him up. You create an enemy. You let him help. You gain an ally who's proven himself in battle. The council members conferred telepathically. Peter could tell by the way their eyes unfocused, minds clearly communicating through the Force. It was eerie and impressive in equal measure. Finally, Master Windu spoke. Spider-Man, the Council has decided to grant you provisional freedom. You will be assigned quarters in the temple, given access to resources, and allowed to assist in Republic operations on a volunteer basis. However, his tone hardened, you will be monitored. Any sign of separatist allegiance, any indication of dark side corruption, and you will be detained immediately. Are these terms acceptable? Peter wanted to argue about the monitoring, about the lack of trust, but he recognized a compromise when he saw one. Acceptable, he said. Then welcome to Coruscant, young Spider-Man, Yoda said warmly. May the Force be with you. Even if feel you, it cannot. As Peter left the council chamber with Anakin and Ahsoka, his spider sense gradually quieted. The immediate danger had passed, but he could feel larger threats looming. Count Dooku, the mysterious Sith Lord, and a war that would test everything he believed in. He was Spider-Man. No matter what galaxy he was in, no matter what enemies he faced, that wouldn't change. With great power came great responsibility, even here, in a galaxy far, far away. Peter's quarters in the Jedi Temple were Spartan, a small room with a sleeping platform, a desk and a window overlooking Coruscant's endless cityscape. It was more space than his bedroom in Queens, but infinitely lonelier. 3 days had passed since the Council's judgment. 3 days of being watched, studied, and whispered about. Jedi would pause in corridors when he passed. Younglings would stare with open curiosity, and temple guards, silent sentinels in intimidating masks, tracked his movements with unnerving precision. Peter spent most of his time in the temple archives, a massive library maintained by an ancient Jedi named Jocasta Nu. She was suspicious of him at first. A void in the Force requesting access to their historical records raised obvious concerns, but Anakin had vouched for him, and eventually she relented. Peter devoured everything he could about the Clone Wars, the Battle of Geonosis that sparked the conflict, the creation of the clone army on Kamino, the Separatist alliance led by Count Dooku, a former Jedi who'd fallen to the dark side, the mysterious Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord manipulating events from the shadows. The more Peter learned, the more disturbed he became. This war wasn't about ideology or territory. It was orchestrated, artificial. Someone was playing both sides, extending the conflict deliberately, and the Jedi couldn't see it. Or maybe they could, but felt powerless to stop it. You've been reading for 6 hours straight, Ahsoka's voice broke his concentration. She stood in the archive entrance, arms crossed, concern evident on her young face. Peter looked up from a data pad detailing the Battle of Christophsis. Did you know the Republic lost 40,000 clone troopers last month alone? 40,000 people, Ahsoka, and that's just 1 month. I know. She moved closer, her voice dropping. I was there for some of those battles. Watch good men die because of bad tactics, political interference, or just plain bad luck. How do you deal with it? I don't, Ahsoka admitted, sitting across from him. I just keep moving forward. Keep trying to save the next person. It's all any of us can do. Peter set down the data pad. Your master, Anakin, he seems different from the other Jedi. More human. He wasn't raised in the temple, Ahsoka explained. He came to the Order late, at 9 years old. Still remembers his mother, his life on Tatooine. The Council nearly rejected him because of it. Too much attachment, too much emotion. But Master Qui-Gon Jinn insisted, and after Qui-Gon died, Master Obi-Wan took Anakin as his Padawan. Qui-Gon died, killed by Darth Maul, a Sith assassin 10 years ago. That's how we learned the Sith had returned. Ahsoka's expression darkened. Anakin watched his master die. It changed him. Peter thought about Uncle Ben, about watching helplessly as someone you loved was taken away. Yeah, he said quietly. That kind of loss changes everything. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two teenagers carrying weights too heavy for their ages. The Council wants to send you on a mission, Ahsoka said eventually. A real one. Not just observation or training. Peter's spider sense tingled. What kind of mission? Relief operation. A Republic medical frigate was attacked by separatist raiders near Ryloth. That's the Twi'lek homeworld. The ship survived but is stranded. We need to escort it to safety before the separatists finish the job. We meaning you and Anakin? And you. Master Windu approved it. He wants to see how you handle yourself in a controlled situation. Peter smiled wryly. Controlled situation. In a war zone. Right. It's a milk run, Ahsoka assured him. Jump in, provide escort, jump out. Should take maybe 6 hours total. Peter's spider sense spiked harder. Why do I get the feeling it won't be that simple? Because you're smart, Ahsoka said with a grin. Nothing in this war is ever simple. The Twilight, Anakin's personal transport, was cramped, battered, and looked like it had been through a dozen battles, which according to Anakin, it had. She's not pretty, Anakin said, patting the hull affectionately, but she's fast and reliable. Mostly reliable. Usually reliable. That's not reassuring, Peter said, strapping into the co-pilot's seat. Ahsoka took the gunner's position behind them, and R2-D2, Anakin's astromech droid, plugged into the navigation socket, chirping anxiously. R2 says there's a 37% chance of mechanical failure during flight, Anakin translated cheerfully. Again, not reassuring. Relax, Spider-Man. I'm the best pilot in the galaxy. Didn't Master Obi-Wan say you were the worst pilot he'd ever seen? Ahsoka interjected. Obi-Wan says a lot of things, Anakin muttered, firing up the engines. Most of them wrong. The Twilight lifted off from the temple's hangar, ascending through Coruscant's traffic lanes with reckless speed. Speeders and transports honked. Apparently, some things were universal. As Anakin weaved through gaps Peter would have sworn were too small. His spider sense screamed the entire time. You're going to kill us, Peter shouted as they barely avoided a massive cargo hauler. I haven't crashed yet, Anakin shouted back. Yet being the operative word, Ahsoka laughed. You get used to it. They broke atmosphere, and Anakin punched the coordinates for Ryloth into the Navy computer. The stars elongated, space twisted, and they entered hyperspace with a familiar lurch that Peter's stomach still hadn't adapted to. In the relative quiet of hyperspace travel, Anakin finally addressed the elephant in the room. So, Peter, your spider sense, how exactly does it work? Peter considered his answer carefully. It's hard to explain. It's like a tingling at the base of my skull. Gets stronger the more dangerous a situation is. Gives me split-second warnings, where attacks are coming from, when to dodge, when something's wrong, even if I can't see it yet. Sounds like force precognition, Ahsoka observed, except I can't turn it off, can't extend it beyond immediate danger, and it doesn't give me visions or anything mystical. It's pure survival instinct, biological early warning system. Anakin drummed his mechanical fingers on the control console. And it works on Force users? Seems to. I could sense you and Ahsoka on Christophsis before I saw you. Not as individuals, just as threats. Powerful ones. Interesting. Anakin's eyes gleamed with that particular intensity Peter had learned meant he was problem-solving. So your spider sense registers Force users as dangerous, even though you're not connected to the Force yourself. Maybe because I'm not connected, Peter theorized. To me, the Force is just another external threat my senses can detect, like radiation or poison gas. That's actually brilliant, Ahsoka said. You're immune to Force persuasion, Force detection, maybe even Force lightning, because your body doesn't interact with the Force at all, which makes you very valuable, Anakin added, and very dangerous to the Sith. They rely on the Force for everything: combat, manipulation, intimidation. Against you, they'd be significantly handicapped. Peter's spider sense suddenly roared to life. Speaking of dangerous, he said urgently, something's wrong, really wrong. Anakin was already moving, pulling them out of hyperspace with practiced ease. They dropped into normal space near Ryloth, a purple and brown world that would have been beautiful if not for the debris field surrounding it. Shipwreckage, hundreds of pieces, Republic and Separatist both. By the Force, Ahsoka whispered. The medical frigate was there, listing badly, hull breached in multiple places. But it wasn't alone. 3 separatist frigates surrounded it, their weapons charged and ready. And standing in the center of the nearest frigate's bridge, visible through the viewport, was a figure Peter recognized from the archives. Count Dooku, former Jedi Master, Sith Lord. And according to every record Peter had read, one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. "It's a trap," Peter said, spider sense screaming. "This whole thing is a trap. They knew we'd come." "Of course they did," a cultured voice said over the comm system. "The Jedi are nothing if not predictable." Dooku's holographic image appeared in the cockpit, tall, elegant, aristocratic. His white beard and refined features gave him the appearance of a professor, not a warlord. But Peter's spider sense marked him as lethal. "Anakin Skywalker," Dooku said with false warmth, "and young Ahsoka Tano. How delightful. But you've brought someone new, someone curious." His eyes, projected but piercing, locked onto Peter. "The boy who appeared on Christophsis, the Void in the Force. My master is most interested in meeting you." "Spider-Man." Peter's blood ran cold. "Your master?" "Darth Sidious, though you'll never find him. He orchestrates everything from the shadows." Dooku's smile was predatory. "But you could be useful. A weapon that the Force cannot touch. Imagine what you could accomplish under proper guidance." "I'm not interested in your evil wizard apprenticeship program," Peter shot back. Dooku's smile widened. "Spirited. I like that." "Very well. Let me make you an offer. Surrender yourself now, and I'll allow the medical frigate to escape. Those clone troopers and medical personnel live. Refuse, and I destroy them while you watch." Anakin's hand moved to his lightsaber. "Peter's not going anywhere with you, Dooku." "Then their deaths are on your conscience, young Skywalker." As always, Dooku's hologram gestured, and the Separatist frigate's weapons began powering up. "You have 60 seconds to decide. The boy or the ship full of innocents." The transmission cut. Peter's mind raced. Dooku wasn't bluffing. His spider sense confirmed that. The Separatist ships would fire, the medical frigate would be destroyed, and hundreds would die, unless Peter gave himself up. "Don't even think about it," Anakin said, reading Peter's expression. "We don't negotiate with Sith." "He's going to kill them," Peter said urgently. "Hundreds of people, Anakin. I can't let that happen. If you surrender, he'll torture you for information, break you, maybe turn you into a weapon against the Republic. And then he'll kill those people anyway." "Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I can—" "No." Ahsoka's voice was firm. "Peter, you're not sacrificing yourself. That's not how we do things." "Then how do you do things?" Peter demanded. "Because from where I'm sitting, your way involves a lot of people dying." The timer hit 30 seconds. Anakin's jaw clenched. His mechanical hand tightened on the controls. And Peter saw the moment the Jedi Knight made his decision. "Strap in," Anakin said coldly. "We're going in." "What? Dooku wants a fight? We'll give him one." Anakin's eyes blazed with barely controlled fury. "Ahsoka, charge the forward cannons. Peter, I hope that spider sense of yours works in space combat." "Are you insane?" Peter shouted. "It's 3 frigates against 1 transport. I've had worse odds." Anakin gunned the engines and the twilight screamed toward the Separatist fleet. Peter's spider sense didn't just tingle. It erupted like a supernova, warning of dangers from every direction, threats he couldn't even process. They were flying straight into hell, and somewhere in the chaos, Peter heard Uncle Ben's voice. With great power comes great responsibility. He'd chosen this life, chosen to be a hero, and heroes didn't abandon people, even when the smart move was retreat. "Okay," Peter said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. "Let's go save some lives." Anakin grinned, wild and dangerous. "Now you're talking like a Jedi." The twilight plunged into battle, 1 small ship against 3 warships, carrying a Jedi Knight, a Padawan, and a spider-powered teenager who was very, very far from home. Count Dooku watched them come and smiled. The first volley of turbolaser fire lit up space like a lethal light show. Peter's spider sense translated the attack patterns into pure instinct. Left, dive, roll, now. And he shouted directions before his conscious mind even processed them. Anakin responded instantly, the twilight dancing through fire that should have vaporized them 3 times over. Left! Hard left! Peter yelled. Anakin banked, and a turbo laser bolt passed so close Peter swore he felt the heat through the hull. Up! Straight up! The transport climbed vertically, evading a crossfire from 2 frigates that would have caught them in a lethal bracket. "How are you doing that?" Ahsoka shouted from the gunner position, firing back at the Separatist ships with limited success. Their cannons were pea shooters compared to military-grade weapons. "Spider sense," Peter replied, his skull burning with constant danger warnings. "It's like my brain is 3 seconds ahead of everything." "Keep it up," Anakin said, weaving through another barrage. His piloting was insane, suicidal, and somehow keeping them alive through sheer skill and Peter's warnings. "Ahsoka, target their bridge shields. We need to make them flinch. We can't punch through frigate shields with these guns." "We don't need to punch through. We just need to make Dooku think we can." The twilight spiraled around one frigate's hull, so close they could see individual hull plates. Then Ahsoka unleashed everything at the bridge section. The shields flared, absorbed the damage easily, but it made the Separatist ship adjust its formation. "There!" Anakin pointed at the medical frigate. "The gap! Peter, tell me if I can make it." Peter's spider sense evaluated the trajectory, the narrow space between 2 Separatist frigates, the turbo laser firing arcs, the timing required, and came back with a conclusion that made his stomach drop. "It's impossible," Peter said. "I don't believe it impossible." Anakin pushed the engines to maximum. "Anakin!" "Trust me," Peter's spider sense screamed as they accelerated directly toward what should have been certain death. The gap between frigates was maybe 50 meters. The twilight was 30 meters wide, and both ships were actively firing. "Barrel roll now!" Peter shouted. Anakin rolled the ship sideways, threading the needle through a gap that Peter's rational mind insisted wasn't physically possible. Turbo laser fire kissed their shields, alarms shrieked, and R2-D2 wailed in electronic terror. Then they were through, rocketing toward the medical frigate. "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen," Peter gasped, adrenaline flooding his system. "Worked, didn't it?" Anakin replied with a manic grin. The medical frigate was larger than Peter expected, maybe 200 meters long, boxy and utilitarian. Its engines sputtered, barely functional. Hull breaches vented atmosphere in frozen crystals, but it was intact enough for rescue. "This is General Skywalker to Republic Medical Frigate Sanctuary," Anakin transmitted. "We're here to provide escort. Can you jump to hyperspace?" A weak signal returned, audio only, crackling with interference. "Negative, General. Hyperdrive is offline. Main power at 30%. We have 200 personnel aboard, including 70 wounded. Can you evacuate?" "Not enough escape pods. We lost half of them in the attack." Anakin cursed. "How long to repair the hyperdrive?" 4 hours, maybe 5. "We don't have 5 hours," Ahsoka said, monitoring the Separatist ships. "They're regrouping, preparing for another attack run." Peter's spider sense confirmed it. Dooku wasn't done playing with them. "We need backup," Peter said. "Call the Republic. Get more ships here." "Nearest Republic fleet is 6 hours away," Anakin replied grimly. "By the time they arrive, the sanctuary will be debris." "Then we hold them off for 4 hours," Peter said, though his spider sense told him that was equally impossible. "In this transport? Against 3 frigates?" Ahsoka shook her head. "We'd last maybe 10 minutes. Anakin's mechanical hand drummed against the console, his mind clearly racing through scenarios and discarding them. Peter recognized that look. He'd worn it himself dozens of times while trying to solve impossible problems in New York. "What if," Peter said slowly, "we don't have to fight all 3 ships?" Both Jedi turned to look at him. "Explain," Anakin said. "Dooku wants me, right? He set this whole trap to capture me. So what if I give him what he wants?" "Absolutely not," Ahsoka said immediately. "Hear me out. I don't actually surrender. I make him think I'm surrendering. Get on his ship, 'cause chaos from the inside. You know, classic spider strategy. Distract them long enough for the sanctuary to repair and escape." "You'd be alone on a Separatist warship," Anakin pointed out, "surrounded by battle droids Dooku, and who knows what other defenses. That's not a rescue plan. That's a suicide mission." "I've been in worse situations," Peter lied. He hadn't actually, but confidence was half the battle. Plus, I'm a void in the Force, remember? Dooku can't sense me coming. I can move through that ship like a ghost. Until they shoot you, Ahsoka said. Blasters work fine on non-Force sensitives. Then I won't get shot. Peter tapped his web shooters. I've got full cartridges, enhanced reflexes, and spider sense that'll warn me before anyone pulls a trigger. I can do this. Anakin studied him for a long moment. Peter felt the weight of that assessment. A Jedi Knight who'd fought in the hundreds of battles, evaluating whether a 17-year-old from another universe could pull off an infiltration that would terrify trained Republic commandos. You're serious, Anakin finally said. Dead serious. Those 200 people on the sanctuary deserve a chance. This gives them one. And if it doesn't work? Peter thought of Uncle Ben, thought of every person he'd saved in New York, every risk he'd taken because it was the right thing to do. Then I'd die trying, but at least I tried. Ahsoka looked horrified. Master, you can't be considering this. I am, Anakin said quietly. His blue eyes held something Peter couldn't quite read. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Because he's right. It's the only play that gives the sanctuary a real chance. We could fight and lose. Anakin's voice was firm. 3 frigates, Ahsoka. We'd be destroyed, and everyone on that medical ship would die anyway. Peter's plan is risky, but it's the best option we have. R2-D2 beeped urgently. R2's right, Anakin said, interpreting. The Separatist ships are moving. We're out of time. Peter stood, checking his web shooters one last time. Full cartridges, mechanisms functional. His suit was scorched and battle-worn, but intact. How do I get to Dooku's ship? Escape pod, Anakin said, already working the console. We'll launch you toward his flagship, transmit a surrender message, make it look real. It'll be real enough, Peter muttered. His spider sense was humming with constant low-level dread, but beneath that was something else. Determination. Purpose. This was what Spider-Man did. Take the hit so others didn't have to. Ahsoka grabbed his arm before he could leave the cockpit. Peter, you don't have to do this. There might be another way. There isn't, Peter said gently. You know there isn't. But hey, I've faced worse than evil space wizards. There was this guy in New York called the Green Goblin, flying around on a glider, throwing pumpkin bombs, totally unhinged. If I can handle him, I can handle Count Dooku. The Green Goblin didn't have the Force, Ahsoka said. No, but he had a way better costume. Peter tried for a smile beneath his mask. Look, I'll be fine. Just make sure the sanctuary gets out of here. That's what matters. He moved toward the escape pod bay, Anakin following. The small pod was cramped, barely room for one person, with minimal controls and no weapons. Once you're aboard, Anakin said, cause as much chaos as you can. Disable weapons, engines, whatever you can reach. We'll use the distraction to get the sanctuary to a safe distance. And then we come back for you. Anakin's expression was intense. You have my word, Peter. We don't leave people behind. Peter nodded, climbing into the pod. The hatch sealed with a hydraulic hiss. Through the small viewport, he saw Anakin's face, grim, determined, and carrying the weight of command that no one his age should bear. The pod ejected with a violent lurch, thrusters firing to orient him toward Dooku's flagship. Peter watched the twilight peel away, heading back toward the medical frigate. He was alone now, drifting through the vacuum toward a separatist warship about to face one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. His spider sense was screaming, and Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the friendly neighborhood hero who was very, very far from his neighborhood, did what he always did when things got scary. He cracked his knuckles and prepared to improvise. Okay, Dooku, he muttered. Let's see if Sith Lords can handle a Queensborn smartass with adhesive powers. The escape pod was caught in the flagship's tractor beam, pulling him inexorably toward the hangar bay, toward Count Dooku, toward whatever came next. The escape pod crashed into the hangar bay with all the grace of a brick through a window. Peter braced himself as the pod skidded across the deck, throwing sparks, finally slamming into a bulkhead with a bone-jarring impact. His spider sense had given him a 3-second warning, just enough time to web cushion himself against the interior walls. When the pod stopped moving, Peter was shaken but uninjured. The hatch blew open. Explosive bolts triggered externally. and suddenly Peter was staring down the barrels of 30 battle droid blasters. "Roger, Roger," one droid said in that distinctly mechanical voice. "Prisoner will exit the pod slowly." Peter raised his hands and climbed out, playing the part of a captured teenager. The hangar was massive. Hundreds of droid starfighters lined up in neat rows, technician droids performing maintenance, and an entire battalion of battle droids surrounding him. His spider sense cataloged them all as threats, but manageable ones. Droids were predictable, programmable. They followed patterns. Dooku would be the real problem. "Welcome aboard, Spider-Man," that cultured voice echoed through the hangar. Count Dooku descended a staircase from an observation platform, his curved lightsaber hilt visible at his belt. He moved with the confidence of a master duelist, every step precise and deliberate. Peter's spider sense rated him as the most dangerous thing in the room by several orders of magnitude. "Nice ship," Peter said, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Bit fascist with all the identical robots, but the architecture's solid, very evil Empire chic." Dooku smiled. "Your levity is admirable but transparent. You're terrified." "Little bit, yeah. Evil space wizards tend to have that effect." "I'm not evil, boy. I'm practical." Dooku stopped 10 feet away, studying Peter like a specimen. "The Republic is corrupt beyond salvation. The Jedi have become soldiers instead of peacekeepers. I seek to rebuild civilization under more efficient leadership." "By building a droid army and killing millions?" Peter shot back. "Yeah, super practical. Necessary casualties in the pursuit of lasting peace." Dooku's eyes narrowed. "But you didn't surrender to debate philosophy. You're here for a reason. Some heroic scheme. Perhaps? Sabotage? Rescue?" Peter's spider sense flared. Dooku was testing him, probing for reactions. "I'm here because you were going to kill 200 people," Peter said honestly. "Seemed like a fair trade. Me for them. Noble. Foolish, but noble." Dooku gestured, and the battle droids closed in, forming a tight perimeter. "Unfortunately, I'm not nearly as honorable as you assume. The medical frigate will still be destroyed. But first, you and I are going to have a conversation about your unique condition." Peter's spider sense screamed. Before the words fully registered, Dooku's hand shot forward, and invisible force energy slammed into Peter like a freight train. He flew backward, crashed into the escape pod, and crumpled to the deck. Pain exploded through his ribs. Not broken, his enhanced durability saved him, but definitely bruised. "Fascinating," Dooku said, approaching slowly. "Force push works on you normally. You can be affected by the Force. You simply cannot be detected through it." He made another gesture, and Peter felt invisible hands grip his throat, lifting him off the ground. Force choke. Peter had read about this in the archives. Darth Vader's signature move, a technique that crushed windpipes and snapped necks without physical contact. But Peter's enhanced physiology meant his neck muscles could resist pressures that would kill a normal human. He gasped for air, clawed at the invisible grip, and his spider sense provided the answer. Dooku was concentrating, maintaining the choke, which meant he was distracted. Peter's hand shot to his web shooter, and he fired blind. The webbing caught Dooku square in the face, covering his eyes, nose, and mouth in adhesive polymer. The force choke released instantly. Peter dropped to the deck, gasping, and immediately rolled as blaster fire erupted. His spider sense guided him through the chaos. Left, right, duck, jump, and 30 battle droids fired at a target that moved like liquid shadow. He webbed the nearest droid's blaster, yanked it free, and threw it like a missile into another droid's chest. Both collapsed in a shower of sparks. Then Peter was moving, wall crawling up the hangar's bulkhead, ceiling, keeping to surfaces the droid's limited programming couldn't easily track. "Stop firing, you idiots!" Dooku's voice roared, distorted by the webbing covering his face. The Sith Lord tore at the adhesive with both hands in the Force, finally ripping it free. His aristocratic features twisted with genuine anger. The droid stopped shooting. Peter clung to the ceiling 40 feet up, catching his breath. "You are far more resourceful than anticipated," Dooku said, his composure returning. And your adhesive is remarkably resistant to force manipulation. An organic polymer? Wouldn't you like to know? Peter called down. I would, which is why Dooku's lightsaber ignited with that distinctive snap hiss, burning red. We're going to do this the difficult way. He leaped, not a normal jump, a force-enhanced leap that carried him 40 feet vertically in a single bound. Lightsaber raised to bisect Peter where he clung to the ceiling. Peter's spider sense gave him the trajectory, and he launched himself sideways, weblining to a starfighter wing. Dooku's blade carved through the ceiling where Peter had been, superheated metal dripping like water. You can't run forever, boy. Not running, Peter yelled back, webbing two droids and swinging them like bolas into a cluster of their companions. Strategically repositioning, he landed on a catwalk, immediately web-zipped to another position as Dooku's lightsaber carved through the metal behind him. The Sith Lord was fast, inhumanly fast, using the Force to predict where Peter would move next. But Peter's spider sense predicted Dooku's predictions. It became a deadly dance. Dooku would slash, Peter would dodge, Peter would web, Dooku would deflect with the Force. Neither could land a decisive blow, but Peter knew he was outmatched in a prolonged fight. He needed to change the game. His eyes scanned the hangar, battle droids reforming for another volley, droid starfighters ready for launch, fuel lines snaking across the deck, and there, a control console near the hangar bay doors. Peter's genius-level intellect ran the calculations in seconds. If he could overload the magnetic seals while the bay doors were opening... You fight well for someone without training, Dooku said, stalking Peter across the catwalk. His lightsaber hummed with barely contained energy. Imagine what you could become with proper instruction. The dark side offers power beyond your comprehension. Hard pass on the evil wizard lessons, Peter replied, firing webbing at Dooku's feet. The Sith Lord sliced through it effortlessly. Your noble sensibilities are charming but naive. The galaxy respects only strength. The Jedi preach peace while wielding swords. The Republic claims democracy while enslaving clone soldiers. Everyone is a hypocrite, boy. I'm simply honest about it. Peter hesitated. Because Dooku wasn't entirely wrong. The clone army was slavery. The Jedi were generals in a war. The Republic was corrupt. But that didn't make Dooku's alternative any better. You know what the difference is? Peter said, dodging another slash. The Republic can be fixed, improved, made better. Your way just replaces one tyranny with another. Idealistic fool! Peter webbed a fuel line and yanked hard. It ruptured, spraying volatile liquid across the hangar deck. Then he webbed a damaged droid, sparks still flying from its chassis, and hurled it into the puddle. The explosion was immediate and spectacular. Fire bloomed across the hangar, engulfing droids, starfighters, and forcing Dooku to leap back to avoid the inferno. Alarms shrieked, emergency systems activated, and in the chaos, Peter made his move. He swung across the hangar on web lines, dodging flames and blaster fire, finally reaching the control console. His fingers flew across the interface. Republic tech and Separatist tech weren't that different, and Peter's natural understanding of engineering bridged the gap. Override codes, safety protocols, magnetic seal controls. What are you doing? Dooku demanded, stalking through the flames like an avenging demon. Leaving! Peter slapped the final sequence. The hangar bay doors began opening. Not the normal controlled opening for ship launches, an emergency purge. The kind used when toxic atmosphere needed immediate venting. Or when you wanted to explosively decompress an entire hangar. No! Dooku raised his hand, using the Force to slow the doors, but Peter had already overloaded the system. The doors continued opening, slower than intended but inexorable. Wind began howling as atmosphere vented into space. Battle droids, not designed for vacuum, were pulled toward the opening. Some managed to maglock to the deck. Others tumbled into the void, servos freezing instantly in the absolute zero of space. Peter webbed himself to the bulkhead, enhanced strength keeping him anchored. Dooku Force gripped the deck, his robe whipping violently, fury written across his face. You cannot escape, he shouted over the roaring wind. This ship has 3,000 droids. My master wants you alive. but I can make alive very unpleasant. Peter's spider sense was screaming warnings about explosive decompression, structural failure, and Dooku's gathering rage. But it also showed him something else. Through the widening hangar doors, he could see the Twilight, Anakin's transport, swooping in close to the Separatist flagship. Close enough that Peter could see Ahsoka in the gunner position, waving frantically. They'd come back for him. Of course they had. "Hey, Dooku!" Peter yelled over the chaos. "Tell your master that Spider-Man doesn't do evil apprenticeships, and if he wants me, he can come get me himself." Then Peter released his web anchor and let the venting atmosphere carry him toward the hangar doors, toward space, toward certain death if his timing was even slightly off. His spider sense provided the trajectory, the vector, the exact moment to fire his web shooters. Now. Webbing shot across the void between ships, crossing 300 feet of vacuum, and snagged the Twilight's hull. Peter felt the line go taut, felt his shoulder nearly dislocate from the sudden deceleration, and then he was reeling himself in hand over hand. Behind him, Dooku stood in the hangar entrance, silhouetted by flames, lightsaber raised in impotent fury. Their eyes met across the impossible distance, and Peter gave him a jaunty wave. Then the Twilight's airlock opened, hands grabbed Peter and pulled him inside, and the door sealed just as his vision started going black from oxygen deprivation. He collapsed on the deck, gasping, ears ringing, body screaming with pain. "That," Ahsoka said, staring down at him with a mixture of awe and disbelief, "was the stupidest, bravest, most insane thing I've ever seen." "Did the medical ship escape?" Peter wheezed. "Jumped to hyperspace 5 minutes ago," Anakin confirmed, helping Peter to his feet. "You bought them the time they needed. All 200 personnel safe." Peter grinned beneath his mask. "Then totally worth it." Anakin laughed, genuine, impressed laughter. "You're crazy, Spider-Man. Absolutely crazy. The Council is going to have about 50 heart attacks when they hear about this." "Looking forward to it," Peter said. As the Twilight jumped to hyperspace, leaving Dooku and his damaged flagship behind, Peter allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. 200 lives saved. One Sith Lord very, very annoyed. And Spider-Man had just proven that you didn't need the Force to be a hero. Sometimes all you needed was great power, great responsibility, and a willingness to do really stupid things for the right reasons. The Jedi Council was, as Anakin predicted, not pleased. "Reckless this was," Master Yoda said, his ancient eyes fixed on Peter with an intensity that made even his spider sense uncomfortable. "Endangered yourself needlessly, you did. And General Skywalker approved this plan? You did." "The plan worked, Master Yoda," Anakin replied, standing at attention. 200 Republic personnel survived because Spider-Man drew Dooku's attention. "Worked, yes. Foolish, also yes." Yoda's ears drooped. "Lucky you were, young Spider-Man. Count Dooku could have killed you, captured you, delivered you to Darth Sidious." "But he didn't," Peter said quietly. "And those people lived." Master Windu leaned forward, his expression stern. "You've now revealed your capabilities to the Separatists. Dooku will report everything to his master. Your strength, your agility, your webbing, and most critically, your invisibility to Force detection. You've made yourself a priority target." "I was already a target," Peter countered. "The trap was set before I did anything. At least now they know I'm not easy prey." "Arrogant," Windu snapped. "You're a child playing at war." Peter felt his temper flare. "I'm a child who saved 200 lives while you sat here debating philosophy. Where I come from, we call that being a hero." The council chamber went deathly silent. Several Jedi Masters exchanged glances. Anakin closed his eyes, probably praying Peter hadn't just ended his provisional freedom. Ahsoka looked torn between pride and horror. Then, unexpectedly, Master Yoda chuckled. "Spirit you have. Conviction. Annoying, yes, but admirable also." The ancient Jedi's expression softened. "Reminded me of someone, you do. Another young one, who questioned the council, who acted first, thought later. Qui-Gon Jinn, he was called." Anakin's eyes snapped open. "Master Qui-Gon believed the living Force," Yoda continued, "that action in the moment mattered more than contemplation of the future. Heretical, some said. Maverick, others. But right, he often was. Shakti spoke up, her voice measured. The boy showed initiative, courage, and tactical thinking. He assessed the situation, identified the optimal solution, and executed it despite personal risk. Those are qualities we claim to value in Jedi. He's not a Jedi, Master Windu pointed out. No, Ki-Adi-Mundi agreed, which makes his selflessness even more remarkable. He has no training in our philosophy, no connection to the Force, yet acts with the same commitment to preserving life that we teach our younglings. Peter felt the tide shifting. The council was divided. Windu clearly distrusted him, but others were warming to his presence. The question remains, said Plo Koon, the Keldor master. What do we do with him? He cannot remain idle in the temple. The Separatists now actively hunt him, and his skills, while impressive, are wasted in meditation chambers. Train him, Anakin said suddenly. Not as a Jedi, but as a Republic operative. He's already proven himself in combat. Give him proper support, resources, and he could be invaluable. A 17-year-old operative? Windu scoffed. Ridiculous. I was 9 when you started training me, Anakin shot back. Ahsoka was 3 when she entered the temple. Don't lecture me about age when we've been making child soldiers for generations. The accusation hung in the air like a thermal detonator. Master Windu's expression darkened dangerously. You overstep, Skywalker. Do I? Or am I just saying what everyone's thinking? Anakin's voice was hard, controlled fury. We've compromised every principle we claim to hold because of this war. We lead clone armies into meat grinders. We've become generals instead of guardians. And now we're judging a kid for doing exactly what a Jedi should do, putting others before himself. Enough, Yoda said softly, but with absolute authority. Skywalker, your passion serves you, but control it you must. Anakin bowed his head, jaw clenched. Yoda turned back to Peter. Agree with Skywalker, I do. Wasted, your talents should not be. Dangerous keeping you here is, both for you and for the temple. He paused, considering. A proposition I have. Attached to Skywalker's unit, you will be. Officially an independent contractor. Unofficially part of the 501st Legion. Missions you will undertake, but only those you choose. Orders you need not follow. Free agent you remain, but with Republic support. Peter blinked. You're giving me a job? Offering one, yes. Accepting, you need not. What kind of missions? Peter asked cautiously. Rescue operations, Shakti said. Reconnaissance. Situations where conventional forces struggle. Your unique abilities make you ideal for unconventional warfare. And I can say no? If I think a mission is wrong? Yes, Yoda confirmed. Spider-Man you are. Spider-Man you will remain. But ally of the Republic you also are. Help when you can, you will. Rest when you must, you may. It was more freedom than Peter expected. More trust than he'd earned, arguably. But it also meant staying in this war, fighting battles that weren't his, risking his life in a galaxy that wasn't his home. Peter thought about Aunt May, about his friends, Ned, MJ, the life he'd left behind. He might never see them again, never get back to Earth. But he also thought about Rex, Ahsoka, and the 200 people on the medical frigate who were alive because he'd acted. I accept, Peter said, on one condition. Master Windu's eyes narrowed. You're in no position to make demands. It's not a demand, it's a request. Peter looked at Yoda. I want to help find a way to free the clones. Not immediately, not irresponsibly, but eventually. They're people, not property. And if the Republic stands for anything, it should stand for that. The council chamber fell silent again. Impossible, that is, Yoda said slowly. The clone army is Republic property. Without them, the war is lost. Then win the war, Peter said, and when it's over, give them a choice. Let them be soldiers if they want, or let them be something else, anything else. The Senate would never approve, Ki-Adi-Mundi said. Then change the Senate's mind. You're Jedi. You're supposed to be the moral center of the Republic, right? So be moral. Anakin was grinning now. Ahsoka looked like she wanted to applaud, and several council members seemed genuinely thoughtful. Consider it we will, Yoda finally said. Promise nothing I can, but ignore your words I will not. It wasn't a victory, but it was a start. Then we have an accord, Peter said. I'll help the Republic, and you'll help me figure out how to get home if possible. Agreed, Yoda said. May the Force be with you, Spider-Man. Even if touch you, it cannot. Outside the council chamber, Anakin clapped Peter on the shoulder, his human hand, not the mechanical one. That was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. I have a gift for threading that needle, Peter admitted. Ahsoka bounced on her heels, barely containing excitement. You basically told the council to free the clones. Do you know how long I've wanted to say that? Why didn't you? Because I'm a Padawan. They dismiss it as youthful idealism. Ahsoka's smile turned sly. But you're not Jedi. You're an outsider. Your words carry different weight. Don't get your hopes up, Peter cautioned. Yoda said he'd consider it. That's not a promise. It's more than we had before, Anakin said. Which reminds me, if you're officially attached to my unit, you need to meet the rest of the 501st properly. Not just in combat, but as brothers. Brothers! That's what the clones call each other. Brothers. They might be created in tubes, but they've built their own culture, their own identity. Anakin's expression turned thoughtful. They're more than soldiers, Peter, and I think they'll appreciate what you said in there. They walked through the temple corridors toward the military district, where clone battalions were garrisoned during Coruscant rotations. Jedi passed them, some nodding respectfully, others staring at Peter with undisguised curiosity. Peter's spider sense hummed with low-level alertness, but nothing threatening. The temple was safe for now. So, Ahsoka said conversationally, you fought Count Dooku hand-to-hand and lived. That's kind of amazing. Most people don't survive engaging him directly. I wouldn't call it hand-to-hand, Peter corrected. More like me running away really effectively while occasionally webbing his face. Still counts, Anakin said with a grin. Dooku's a master duelist, former Jedi Council member before he fell. If you frustrated him enough to make mistakes, you've done better than 90% of the Jedi Order. Does that mean I get a laser sword? Lightsaber, Ahsoka corrected automatically. And no, they're Jedi weapons, require Force attunement to construct, and Force precognition to wield effectively in combat. What about my spider sense? That's precognition. Anakin considered it. Actually, that might work. A lightsaber is a plasma blade contained in a magnetic field. It has no weight except the hilt, which makes it incredibly dangerous to inexperienced users. But your reflexes? He trailed off, clearly calculating possibilities. Don't encourage him, Master, Ahsoka said. The Council would lose their minds if you gave Spider-Man a lightsaber. Which is exactly why I'm considering it, Anakin replied with a mischievous glint. They reached the garrison district, a massive complex of barracks, training facilities, and armories. Clone troopers were everywhere, their white armor gleaming under artificial lights. Some were training in combat drills, others maintaining equipment, and a few were simply relaxing between missions. And all of them had the same face. Rex stood waiting near the entrance, helmet under his arm. When he saw Peter, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Spider-Man, Rex said formally, the 501st has been briefed. You're officially attached to our unit as an independent operative. Welcome aboard. Thanks, Captain, Peter replied, suddenly feeling the weight of what he'd agreed to. These men, these clones, would be his teammates, his responsibility. Come on, Rex said, turning toward the barracks. The boys want to meet the crazy kid who webbed Count Dooku in the face. As they walked deeper into the complex, clones began stopping what they were doing to watch. Some saluted. Others just stared. But Peter noticed something in their eyes. Respect, maybe. Curiosity. Hope. Rex led them to a common area where dozens of clones had gathered. They wore their armor with varying decorations, painted symbols, scratch tallies, personalized markings, trying to be individuals within an army of identical faces. Listen up, Rex called out. The room fell silent immediately. This is Spider-Man. He's assigned to the 501st as an independent contractor. He'll be on missions with us, fighting beside us, and covering our backs when things go sideways. One clone, his armor marked with orange and yellow flames, spoke up. Is it true you jumped out an airlock to escape a separatist flagship? Technically, I was explosively decompressed, Peter clarified. But yeah, basically. Impressed murmurs rippled through the crowd. Another clone, this one with a distinctive scar across his helmet's visor, stepped forward. Heard you took on Dooku single-handed. That true? More like I annoyed him until he made mistakes, Peter admitted. But I did web his face, blow up his hangar, and steal a ride home. So, partial win? The clones laughed, genuine, warm laughter. It was the first time Peter had heard them sound like people instead of soldiers. He'll fit right in, the scarred clone said. I'm Fives. This here's Echo. He gestured to the clone with orange and yellow armor. We're ARC troopers, advanced recon commandos. Basically, we do the impossible missions nobody else wants. Sounds familiar, Peter said. You any good with a blaster? Fives asked. Never used one. Back home, I stick to webs and punching. Echo snorted. Punching? Against battle droids? And worse. I once fought a guy who could turn his body into sand. Try punching that. The clones exchanged glances, then Fives grinned. Okay, Spider-Man, you've earned your spot. But fair warning, 501st just sees the worst fighting in the war. We go where things are hottest. If you're with us, you're going to see real hell. I've seen hell, Peter said quietly, thinking of Uncle Ben, of New York burning, of battles he'd fought alone. This time, at least I won't face it alone. Rex clasped Peter's shoulder, the same gesture of brotherhood Anakin had used. Welcome to the 501st, kid. We've got your back. And I've got yours, and Peter promised. As the clones returned to their activities, accepting Peter as one of their own, he felt something shift. He was still Spider-Man, still the kid from Queens who'd been bit by a radioactive spider. But now he was also something else, a soldier in a galactic war, a brother to men who'd been born to fight, and maybe, just maybe, a voice for those who had no voice of their own. The Clone Wars had claimed another life, but Spider-Man refused to let it claim his soul. 3 weeks passed in a blur of missions, battles, and blood. Peter learned what the Clone Wars really meant. Not the strategic briefings or holographic displays showing contested systems, but the visceral, brutal reality of galactic conflict. He learned it on Ryloth, defending Twi'lek villages from separatist occupation forces, watching clone troopers die protecting civilians they'd never met. He learned it on Felucia, swinging through bioluminescent jungles while massive creatures and battle droids turned paradise into a war zone. He learned it in the Outer Rim, on worlds whose names he couldn't pronounce, fighting enemies he didn't hate for reasons he barely understood. But he also learned what it meant to be part of the 501st. He learned that Fives told terrible jokes to keep morale up, that Echo could recite every regulation in the Republic military code from memory, that Rex never asked his men to do anything he wouldn't do himself, that they mourned their fallen brothers with quiet dignity, then kept fighting because stopping meant their deaths were meaningless. And he learned that Anakin Skywalker was both the best and most dangerous commander in the Republic military. The man was brilliant, a tactical genius who could turn impossible situations into victories through sheer audacity. But he was also reckless, driven by emotions the Jedi Code supposedly forbade, and walking a razor's edge between light and dark that made Peter's spider sense constantly uneasy. Now standing in the briefing room of the Resolute as it orbited Umbara, a planet perpetually shrouded in darkness, Peter watched that edge become visible. The mission is simple, General Ponkrell said, his massive forearm form dominating the holographic display. The Basalis Jedi was replacing Anakin temporarily, called away to Coruscant for an emergency council session. We take the Umbaran Air Base, control the air, we control the planet. Peter's spider sense had been screaming since Krell boarded the ship 2 hours ago. Something about the Jedi Master felt wrong. Not dark side, Peter couldn't sense that, but cruel, callous. Sir, Rex said carefully, Umbaran forces are heavily entrenched. Their technology is more advanced than standard separatist equipment. A frontal assault would result in significant casualties. Then we'll take significant casualties, Krell replied dismissively. Clones are replaceable. Victory is not. The temperature in the room dropped. Peter saw Rex's jaw clench. saw Fives and Echo exchange glances, saw Ahsoka, still present as Anakin's representative, tense with barely controlled anger. "With respect, General," Peter spoke up, unable to stay silent. "These men aren't replaceable. They're people, and there are smarter ways to take an airbase than charging directly into kill zones." Krell's four eyes fixed on Peter with cold disdain. "And who are you to question military strategy, boy? A masked vigilante playing soldier?" "I'm someone who's saved more lives in the past 3 weeks than your tactics would preserve in 3 months," Peter shot back. "Insubordinate." Krell turned to Rex. "Captain, control your pet." Rex's hand moved to his blaster. Not threatening, but ready. "Spider-Man is an independent contractor, General. He doesn't fall under your command." "Then perhaps he should leave," Krell said coldly. "This is a military operation, not a playground for amateurs." Peter felt his temper rising, but Ahsoka caught his eye and shook her head minutely. "Not here, not now." "Fine," Peter said. "But when your plan gets good men killed, remember I offered alternatives." He left the briefing room, spider sense still screaming warnings. The assault on Umbara was a nightmare. The planet's perpetual darkness was broken only by bioluminescent plants and the flash of blaster fire. Umbaran soldiers, native warriors with advanced weaponry, struck from shadows with precision and lethality, and Krell's tactics were suicidal. "Forward!" the general commanded from his safe position behind the lines. "Take that ridge." The 501st advanced across open ground, exposed to Umbaran fire. Clone troopers fell by the dozens, their armor no match for the indigenous energy weapons. Peter swung through the darkness, using his webs to pull wounded soldiers to cover, his spider sense the only thing keeping him alive. "This is insane," Fives shouted over the comm. "We're being slaughtered." "Orders are orders," Rex replied, but his voice was strained, torn between duty and watching his brothers die. Peter webbed an Umbran sniper out of a tree, then landed beside Rex behind a makeshift barricade. "We can't keep doing this. Krell's either incompetent or deliberately getting your men killed." "I know," Rex said through gritted teeth. "But he's a Jedi general. We're bound by the chain of command." "Screw the chain of command!" Peter fired webbing to create a barrier as Umbaran fire intensified. "Look around." "Rex, this isn't war. It's murder." A massive explosion erupted to their left. 3 clones disintegrated instantly. Peter's spider sense had warned him half a second before, but not enough time to save them. He learned their names that morning: Hardcase, Tup, and Dogma. Hardcase loved explosives. Tup collected pressed flowers from every planet they visited. Dogma believed absolutely in following orders. Now they were gone. "I'm going after Krell," Peter said, standing. Rex grabbed his arm. "Peter, you can't. He's a Jedi Master. He'll cut you down. Then I'll die trying, because I can't watch this anymore." Before Rex could respond, Ahsoka's voice crackled over the comm. "All units, fall back to secondary position. General Krell's orders are overridden by my authority as General Skywalker's representative." "About time," Fives muttered. The 501st retreated in good order, Peter covering their withdrawal with strategic web barriers that slowed Umbaran pursuit. They regrouped at a defensive position 3 clicks back, casualties mounting but the unit intact. Krell arrived minutes later, his 4 lightsabers ignited. 2 blue, 2 green, radiating barely contained fury. "Padawan Tano," his voice was thunder. "You dare countermand my orders?" Ahsoka stood her ground, though Peter saw her hand tremble slightly on her lightsaber hilt. "Your tactics were getting men killed unnecessarily, General. I made a battlefield decision." "You made a mistake." Krell advanced on her. "And mistakes have consequences." Peter's spider sense exploded. He moved without thinking, interposing himself between Krell and Ahsoka. "Back off." Krell's 4 eyes focused on Peter with murderous intent. "Move, insect, or I'll move you." "Try it." For a frozen moment, no one breathed. Clone troopers watched in horror as a teenager in a red and blue suit faced down a Jedi Master. Ahsoka reached for Peter's shoulder, probably to pull him back. Then Krell laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You have courage, boy. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless." He deactivated his lightsabers. "But you're right about one thing. My tactics need adjustment. These clones are more resilient than anticipated. Something in the way he said clones made Peter's skin crawl. Not soldiers, not men. Clones. Objects. We're taking a different approach, Ahsoka said firmly. Spider-Man, Rex, and I will scout the airbase perimeter. Find weaknesses. Then we strike surgically, not with mass assaults. Krell's expression was unreadable. As you wish, Padawan. But when your plan fails, remember that I offered the traditional solution. He stalked away, leaving tension thick enough to cut. Rex approached Peter, voice low. That was the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Possibly both. I'm getting that a lot lately, Peter muttered, watching Krell disappear into the darkness. His spider sense was still screaming. Something was very, very wrong with that Jedi. The reconnaissance mission was Peter's element. He, Ahsoka, and Rex, along with Fives and Echo, infiltrated the Umbreon airbase under cover of darkness. Peter's wall-crawling ability and spider sense made him the perfect scout, and Ahsoka's force sensitivity complemented his danger warnings perfectly. Guard patrol, 40 meters ahead, Ahsoka whispered. I've got it, Peter replied, web-zipping silently to the ceiling. Then webbing the Umbreon guards before they could raise an alarm. He lowered their unconscious bodies gently. No killing, never killing. They moved deeper into the airbase. Massive hangars held Umbreon starfighters, sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed grown rather than built. Defense turrets bristled everywhere, and in the center, a command tower coordinated all planetary defenses. There, Rex pointed at a weakness in the perimeter, a maintenance tunnel with minimal security. We could infiltrate through there, plant charges on the munitions depot, and cripple their air support in one strike. Minimal casualties, Fives added, in and out before they know we're here. It could work, Ahsoka agreed, recording the tactical data. Master Anakin would approve. Will Krell? Peter asked. The silence was answer enough. They extracted successfully and returned to report their findings. Krell listened to the plan with barely disguised contempt. Subterfuge, he sneered. The cowards approach. Real warriors attack directly. Real warriors minimize casualties while achieving objectives, Ahsoka countered. This plan accomplishes both. Or, Krell said slowly, it demonstrates weakness that the Umbreons will exploit. No, we attack at dawn with full force. That is my final decision. General, Rex began. Silence, clone! Krell's roar echoed across the camp. You exist to follow orders, not question them. Tomorrow you will advance on my command, or you will be court-martialed for treason. Peter felt his hands curl into fists. His spider sense was howling now, warning of danger not immediate but inevitable. That night, unable to sleep, Peter found Ahsoka on a ridge overlooking the Umbreon landscape. She sat in meditation posture, but her emotional turmoil was visible even without force sensitivity. He's wrong, Peter said, sitting beside her. You know he's wrong. I know, Ahsoka whispered, but he's a Jedi Master, a general, and I'm just a Padawan. You're more of a Jedi than he'll ever be. How would you know? You're not force sensitive. I don't need the Force to recognize a good person when I see one. Peter looked up at the alien stars. Where I come from, there's a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Krell has power, rank, authority, Force abilities, but he's not using them responsibly. That makes him dangerous. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the right thing means disobeying orders. Ahsoka was quiet for a long moment. Master Anakin would agree with you. He's never been good at blindly following the council. Maybe that's why he's a good Jedi. Or why he's a dangerous one. Ahsoka stood, decision crystallizing in her posture. Tomorrow we do things our way. Krell wants a frontal assault? Fine. But we'll also execute the infiltration plan. Parallel operations. If he succeeds, great. If not, we'll have a backup. He'll court-martial you, Peter warned. Let him try. Ahsoka's young face was hard with determination. I won't let more clones die because of pride and stubbornness. Peter grinned beneath his mask. Now you're talking like a hero. Dawn broke over Umbra, or what passed for dawn in perpetual twilight. Krell's assault force advanced across open ground, and predictably the Umbreons opened fire with devastating effect. Simultaneously, Peter led Rex, Fives, and Echo through the maintenance tunnel. Ahsoka remained with the main force, providing cover and preventing a total massacre. Charges set, Fives reported, planting explosives throughout the munitions depot. 2 minutes and this whole complex goes up. Make it 1 minute, Peter said, spider sense screaming warnings. We've got incoming. Umbaran soldiers poured into the depot. They'd been detected. Blaster fire erupted in the confined space. Peter webbed weapons, yanked soldiers off their feet, and used his enhanced strength to clear paths. Rex, Fives, and Echo fought with practiced efficiency, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Go! Peter shouted, firing web lines to create barriers. Get out! I'll hold them! Not leaving you behind, Rex shouted back. I'm faster and harder to hit. Go! For once, Rex didn't argue. He, Fives, and Echo sprinted for the exit. Peter bought them seconds by webbing the tunnel entrance shut, then followed, spider sense guiding him through the labyrinth as explosions began detonating behind him. He emerged from the maintenance tunnel just as the entire munitions depot erupted in a fireball that lit up Umbra's darkness like a dying sun. Umbra and starfighters, grounded and fueled, ignited in chain reactions. The command tower collapsed, and the airbase, the strategic objective that should have cost hundreds of clone lives, was destroyed. Peter collapsed on the ground, exhausted, burned, and victorious. Rex pulled him up, grinning through his scorched helmet. You crazy, beautiful idiot. You did it. We did it, Peter corrected. Across the battlefield, Krell stood amid the carnage of his failed assault, staring at the burning airbase. His forearms hung at his sides, lightsabers dark, and Peter's spider sense told him that the real battle was just beginning. The aftermath of Umbra revealed the truth. General Pong Krell was arrested for treason after it was discovered he'd been deliberately sabotaging Republic operations, driven by visions of the Jedi Order's fall and a desperate attempt to gain favor with Count Dooku. His plans included ordering clone troopers to fire on each other in the darkness, disguised as Umbaran forces. Peter had stopped it. His spider sense detected the deception before the first shot was fired, warning him that the enemy soldiers approaching were actually clone troopers from the 212th Battalion. He'd webbed weapons, created barriers, and physically interposed himself between the two clone forces until the truth became clear. Krell fought back when Rex and the 501st moved to arrest him. 4 lightsabers against an army of clones and 1 spider-powered teenager. The battle was brief and brutal. Peter's immunity to force detection made him unpredictable, and when Krell tried to force choke him, Peter webbed all 4 of the Jedi's arms together, immobilizing him long enough for Rex to stun him unconscious. The fallen Jedi Master was executed by firing squad, clone justice for a traitor who'd caused the deaths of hundreds of their brothers. Peter didn't watch. He'd seen enough death on Umbra to last a lifetime. Now, back on Coruscant, Peter stood in the Jedi Temple's meditation gardens, watching the sunset paint the endless city in shades of orange and purple. 3 months had passed since his arrival in this galaxy. 3 months of war, loss, and slowly learning what it meant to be a hero in a conflict without easy answers. Thought I'd find you here, Ahsoka's voice came from behind him. She'd grown in those 3 months, not physically, but in presence. The experience on Umbar had changed her, hardened her, made her question the Jedi Order's role in the war. It had changed Peter too. Just thinking, Peter said, about home, about whether I'll ever get back. The Council's researchers have been working on it, Ahsoka offered, sitting beside him. Master Yoda thinks there might be a way to recreate the dimensional rift, but it would require enormous energy. Maybe tapping into a force nexus, or... I know, Peter smiled sadly beneath his mask. They've told me. It's possible, theoretically, but it could take years, maybe decades. And in the meantime, there's a war happening. You don't have to fight it, Ahsoka said quietly. You've done enough. More than enough. No one would blame you for stepping back. Peter thought about that, about returning to a quiet life in the temple, studying and waiting for a chance to go home that might never come. It would be safer, saner, but it wouldn't be right. My Uncle Ben used to say that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing, Peter said. I've seen what the Separatists do to civilian populations. I've watched clone troopers die protecting people they've never met. I've fought alongside Jedi who genuinely believe they're making the galaxy better. But, but I've also seen the Republic's corruption, the Senate more interested in profits than people, the Jedi Order compromising their principles to serve a government that's lost its way. And worst of all, I've seen how this war is being manipulated by someone in the shadows. Darth Sidious. Ahsoka tensed. Master Yoda believes Sidious is orchestrating both sides, that the whole war is a trap designed to destroy the Jedi and seize control of the Republic. Then why keep fighting? Because what choice do we have? Ahsoka's voice was frustrated, helpless. If we stop fighting, the Separatists win. Dooku takes over and trillions suffer under Sith rule. If we keep fighting, we play into Sidious's hands. Either way, we lose. Peter was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled. You know what? That's exactly the kind of impossible situation Spider-Man was made for. What do you mean? I mean, back home, I fight bad guys who are smarter than me, stronger than me, better equipped than me. Guys like Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Kingpin, villains who should beat me every single time. But I win anyway. You know why? Because you never give up? That's part of it. But mostly, I win because I change the game. I don't fight on their terms. I create new terms. I improvise, adapt, and find the angle they didn't anticipate. Understanding dawned in Ahsoka's eyes. You think we can do that here, against Darth Sidious? I think we have to try, because the alternative is accepting that we're powerless, and I refuse to accept that. Peter stood, energy returning to his tired limbs. This war is a trap, right? Both sides manipulated by a hidden enemy. So we don't just fight the war, we fight the manipulation. We look for Sidious. We expose the conspiracy. We force him out of the shadows and into the light where we can see him. The Council has been trying to do that for years, Ahsoka pointed out. Master Yoda, Master Windu, even Master Anakin. They've found nothing. Because they're looking with the Force, Peter said. They're trying to sense him through the dark side, track his Force signature, predict his moves through Force visions. But I can't do any of that. I'm invisible to the Force, remember? Which means I might be able to see patterns they can't. Find connections that Force precognition misses. That's, Ahsoka paused, considering. Actually brilliant. You're not clouded by the Force. You can investigate without Sidious sensing you coming. Exactly. And with the 501st supporting me, with Anakin and you helping coordinate, maybe, just maybe, we can find this Sith Lord before he springs whatever trap he's building. Ahsoka stood, hope rekindling in her expression for the first time since Umbara. I need to tell Master Anakin. He'll want to be part of this. Tell him tonight, Peter suggested. Right now, there's something more important. What? Peter gestured to the meditation garden, where a group of clone troopers in civilian clothes had gathered. Rex, Fives, Echo, and a dozen others from the 501st, enjoying a rare moment of leave on Coruscant. They were laughing, talking, being people instead of soldiers. I promised Rex I'd teach them how to play sabacc without losing all their credits, Peter said with a grin. Turns out my spider sense makes me terrible at poker. I always know when someone's bluffing, but I can still teach the theory. Ahsoka laughed, genuine, unguarded laughter. You're teaching clone troopers to gamble? I'm teaching them to live, Peter corrected, because if we're going to save this galaxy, we need to remember what we're saving it for. They walked together toward the gathering clones, and Peter felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced since leaving Earth. These people, Ahsoka, Rex, the entire 501st, had become his family, his team, his reason to keep fighting even when the odds seemed impossible. Hey, Spider, Fives called out, waving. We started without you. Echo's already down 50 credits. That's because you're cheating, Echo protested. I'm not cheating. I'm strategically reinterpreting the rules. Peter laughed, joining them. Rex handed him a set of sabacc cards, and for a few hours, the war faded away. They were just people, clones and a dimensional refugee and a young Padawan, trying to find moments of joy in a galaxy at war. Later that night, after the games ended and the clones returned to their barracks, Peter stood alone on the temple's highest balcony. Coruscant stretched endlessly in all directions, a planet of lights and lives and infinite possibilities. Somewhere out there, Darth Sidious was plotting, Count Dooku was planning, the Separatists were building armies, and the Republic was slowly crumbling under the weight of corruption and war. But Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the hero from another universe, the void in the Force, had something they didn't expect. Hope. He'd saved 200 lives on a medical frigate, exposed a traitor on Umbara, given voice to clone troopers who'd never had one, made the Jedi Council question their compromises, and earned the trust of warriors who'd been bred to serve but deserved to choose. Uncle Ben, Peter whispered to the alien stars, I don't know if you can hear me across dimensions, but I'm still keeping my promise, still using my power responsibly, and I'm going to find a way to make things right here, just like I tried to do back home. His spider sense hummed, not warning of danger, but acknowledging something larger. Destiny, maybe, or just the weight of choices made and challenges ahead. The Clone Wars raged on. The trap was closing. And Peter knew that darker days were coming. Order 66, the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire. Events he'd read about in the Temple archives, hidden in classified files Anakin had helped him access. But knowing the future meant he could change it. Hey, Anakin's voice came from behind him. The Jedi Knight stepped onto the balcony, his mechanical hand gleaming in the city lights. Ahsoka told me about your plan, hunting Sidious using your unique perspective. You think it's crazy? I think it's the sanest thing I've heard in years. Anakin leaned on the railing, staring out at Coruscant. I've had visions, Peter. Dark ones. The Jedi Order burning. People I love dying. A galaxy enslaved. I don't know if they're prophecy or just fear, but they feel real. We'll stop them, Peter said with conviction. Together. You, me, Ahsoka, Rex, and everyone else who still believes the galaxy can be better than it is. Anakin smiled, tired but genuine. You sound like Master Qui-Gon. He used to say that one person, acting with absolute conviction, could change the course of history. Was he right? I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. They stood together in comfortable silence, Master and outsider, Jedi and Spider-Man, watching over a galaxy that needed heroes now more than ever. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new challenges, new impossible situations that required impossible solutions. But tonight, there was peace. And Peter Parker, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, who'd found himself in a galaxy far, far away, knew that he was exactly where he needed to be. With great power came great responsibility. And Spider-Man, whether in Queens, New York, or Coruscant, capital of the Galactic Republic, would always answer that call. The legend of Spider-Man spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Clone troopers told stories of the masked hero who could sense danger before it struck, who refused to kill even in the midst of war, who treated them as brothers rather than expendable soldiers. Jedi spoke cautiously of the void in the Force, who'd exposed a traitor within their ranks and challenged their compromises. And in the dark corners of Separatist command centers, Count Dooku warned of the unpredictable element that could unravel Darth Sidious's carefully orchestrated plans. Peter Parker never made it home to Earth. The dimensional rift that brought him to the Star Wars galaxy remained a mystery, its recreation beyond even the Jedi Order's capabilities. He would never see Aunt May again, never graduate high school, never live the normal life he'd once dreamed of, but he found a new purpose, a new family, and a new neighborhood to protect, one that spanned star systems instead of city blocks. In the months and years that followed, Spider-Man became a symbol, not of the Republic or the Jedi or any single faction, but of hope itself. Proof that heroism didn't require the Force, that one person's choices could matter even in a galaxy of trillions, and that doing the right thing was always possible if you had the courage to try. The trap Darth Sidious had set for the galaxy would eventually spring. Order 66 would come, the Jedi would fall, the Empire would rise. But this time, there would be a spider in the web of fate, one the Sith Lord never anticipated, one that couldn't be detected or predicted or controlled. And when the moment came, when the galaxy's fate hung in balance, Peter Parker would be there. Because with great power comes great responsibility, and Spider-Man's responsibility now encompassed an entire galaxy far, far away. The Force might bind all things, connecting every living being in its eternal web. But some webs are spun from determination, ingenuity, and the unshakable belief that one person can make a difference. And those webs, those connections forged through choice rather than destiny, might be the strongest of all.